Here are 10 disturbing details from the Arkham games. Let's go ahead and start with the first one here. Hugo Strange has had quite a few horror stories for himself throughout the Arkham games. There's one that stands out to me, however. Do you remember the room before you enter Wonder City? There's a lot of dead bodies being hung from the ceiling. If you noticed, these bodies are actually lunatics from Arkham Asylum, those crazy inmates that would drop in out of nowhere to attack you in the game. These lunatics are dead here. However, it wasn't from the assassins. It's implied in the Arkham City files and games lore that they were the result of Hugo Strange's experiments at the asylum. Hugo experimented on these lunatics and presumably had them hung here. There's concept art for them in the game as well, so they were perhaps intended to be considered to be put into the game at some point. Hugo Strange was just a psychopath in general, brainwashing and torturing the people that worked for him, creating an army for himself where most of the men may not be voluntary. It's a little crazy to think about how far Hugo's experiments have taken him, and the lunatics here being his guinea pigs is crazy, but just the fact that they ended up hung in an abandoned area of Gotham, seemingly forgotten, just doesn't sit right with me. I know they were insane, but it shows how Hugo has just lost his humanity. It adds to the eeriness of Arkham City, and the subtle events that went on in the game. We all know the Joker has committed a ton of extremely dark crimes. However, there's one in particular in the Arkham series I wanted to talk about, particularly on the story called The Fall in the Arkham Knight Riddler stories. This is the story of how Jason got caught by the Joker. However, that's not the part I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about why Jason went after Joker in the first place. There's a crime mentioned here that Joker did that caused Jason to go after him. The crime was that Joker murdered a bunch of kindergarten children. Not just murdered, but he mismatchingly sewed their body parts together. There's a part here that mentions that Jason saw a mother, grief-stricken, trying to piece her son together. Joker killing kids is not a new thing, but even so, this story is just insane to say the least, especially for an Arkham game. I mean, the Arkham games don't shy away from things that are mature, but this is something that is just still extremely depressing. The Joker has done horrible things in the comics, so to see it here and established is nothing surprising to someone who really knows Joker. But still, this crime is just way too dark to show in the game, and I'm really glad Rocksteady found a way to incorporate these, and these subtle ways of telling us and not showing it might even be more effective storytelling. At the end of the day, killing children and sewing their body parts together is something straight out of a horror movie that goes beyond rated R for me. Disturbing to say the least, but normal for the Joker. Simon Stag. Everyone who's played through Arkham Knight knows that he's a rich, malicious businessman who went to business with Crane and aided in destroying Gotham. However, looking more into his lore, there's a lot of downright evil things he's overall done. Extortion, human rights abuse, animal abuse, murder, weapon trafficking, and so on. However, there's one particular storyline of his that is disturbing to me. His audio tapes reveal Simon has been working with a friend of his named Alex Sartorius, a scientist who worked with Stag for 20 years. The audio tapes turn out to be the confession tapes from Alex about Simon Stag, about how Simon performed things like illegal testing on humans.
Hello? yes, hello. I am in a better mood today. I've discovered a pharmaceutical cure for paranoia, you see. You put the anti-anxiety pill straight into the whiskey bottle and you swirl it around. Oh no. Where was I? Oh yes! Chemical weapons, biological weapons. Wonderful things. We went into business to save people, but it turns out that killing them paid better. Not well enough for Simon though. That greedy, grasping parasite, that bastard! There are many buyers for this stuff, you see. Not legal buyers anyway, so you had to be competitive. But how can you do research quickly when human testing is illegal? Not to mention life-threateningly dangerous, unethical, unfathomably risky. Well, it's obvious. You do human testing anyway. He never told me where they came from. Just that no one would miss them.
Alex's psychological state was clearly deteriorating, and he mentions he's taking anxiety medication to feel better. At the final tape, while recording his confession and hate for Simon Stag, who made him perform illegal experiments on people, a militia thug tells Alex that Simon has summoned him.
You think I want forgiveness? You think this is some desperate Alpha. I was raised Catholic, but I chose science over faith. This is not about me, this pathetic, drunken confession. I struck my bargain, let him threaten me into silence while I worked on my vaccines, my cures. So don't judge me, whoever you are. Whichever junior reporter at the Gotham Herald was lucky enough to press the play button on this device. No! This isn't about me. This is about him. He's gotten worse. We're a pharmaceutical company in name alone these days. It's all weapons, some to the army, even more to the people the army's fighting. And now Scarecrow's here? I know what they're doing. They're taking my technology, my mass inoculation device, and they're turning it into something twisted, something wrong. Well, I won't let that happen. I won't turn a blind eye anymore. This confession will be my epitaph, the proof that I was not content to weigh the good I've done against the evil done by him anymore. If you were listening to this...
Dr. Sartorius, Mr. Stag would like a word.
It finally reveals to us what happened to him in a Riddler story. Simon Stagg accused him of betrayal and put Alex in one of the human experimentation chambers, subjecting him to fear toxin. This caused Alex to believe his body was consumed by fire. What happens after that is unknown. However, Dr. Alex Sartorius is actually a supervillain in the comics. He becomes a villain known as Dr. Phosphorus, a flaming skeletal superhuman that has radioactive powers. Knowing this is probably his outcome for what we hear about him at the end. Although his whereabouts are unknown, he may look to seek revenge against Simon for what he's done to him when he's good and ready. Arnold Wesker is a villain in the Batman's Rogues Gallery called the Ventriloquist, a crazy man who carries around a puppet with a gun named Scarface. He believes that the puppet is controlling him and making him commit a bunch of crimes. It's not clear whether the puppet is actually alive in some incarnations, or if Arnold's just crazy, or if it's both. In the Arkham series though, we never get to figure that out because the Ventriloquist never actually physically appears in the games. We see versions of Scarface, like the one in the villain lockup in Arkham Knight. However, that's not the original Scarface, just a Joker knockoff. Anyways, there's a big question whatever ended up happening to Arnold since we never see him in the games. Well, in Batman Arkham City, we hear this on the radio in the game, check it out.
Dispatch. Wesker is taken a hostage and is proceeding to shoot at other officers.
Now, knowing that, it's established that Arnold is in a police situation during the events of Arkham City. Now, going back to Arkham Knight, there's a villain section for the Ventriloquist. However, it's for someone named Peyton Riley. Peyton Riley is generally the person who takes over the persona once Arnold Wesker dies. Keep in mind, Arkham Knight takes place about 9 months after City. I could be wrong on that, but it's a relatively short time frame. So what I believe happened was that Arnold died in that police shootout, and Peyton here took the mantle. It's weird to think about this kind of detail in the Arkham game, and maybe it was unintentional, but it makes sense in the universe. Either way, sad way to go for Arnold, seemingly forgotten, as this is something that a lot of people can definitely miss. Officer Owens, the officer we play as in the beginning of the game. We saw how the Scarecrow fear toxin influenced him to start shooting at the civilians, or not depending on how you played it. However, his backstory makes it a lot more depressing. In the False Dawn Gotham City story, it mentions how him and his family moved to Gotham once he got a promotion and transfer there. His wife, Ellen, told him that Gotham's no place to raise a child, and it put a strain on their marriage. However, as months went by in Gotham, they felt better and warmed up to the city. Gordon even secured their son, Tyler, a place in McCallum Academy in Gotham. However, after Arkham City, their worries began to rise again, and Owens told his wife that if things didn't improve in a year, they'd move back to Keystone City. And during the next 9 months, with Arkham City gone, Joker dead, crime falling, Gotham felt different and better for them. The story ends with Halloween coming up, and Owens' son asking him to take him to the parade, in which he has playful banter with his wife about it before he leaves to be infected with fear toxin. Just makes the whole situation more depressing if you ask me. I think the canon outcome here is that he kills civilians and his life is seemingly ruined because of it. Having to look his wife and kid in the eye knowing he killed other people is something I wanted to talk about because these human moments on how the villains affect good people goes very unnoticed and it's very subtle sometimes. Owens took a gamble moving to Gotham and it costed him. It's sad to see just shows a very small taste of how Gotham ruins innocent people. Calendar Man, sometimes seen as a joke in the comics, but in the Arkham games, they managed to turn him into pure nightmare fuel. In Arkham City, if you visit him at his cell, he has a ton of stories from different holidays to tell you about, all of them being horror stories. For example, there's one where he broke into a mom and dad's home on Thanksgiving, and made them cook and feed him, and murder them shortly after. This might be one of the less dark things he's done. He talks to Catwoman too, threatening her and telling her he'll see her real soon, and asks about her father, which is Falcone, referencing the Long Halloween comic book. You can go to talk to him each month and he'll have something new to say. However, eventually, he will escape from Arkham City. If you go to his cell, you'll see that he's disappeared and what's left is an inmate hanging from the ceiling replacing him, showing that he is on the loose. A creepy thing is that he tells Batman he'll be there at his end, and in Arkham Knight, we see him in the crowd at the end, watching his house explode. And it also shows that he's on the loose, especially during Halloween time in Gotham, which means that there will be more death and destruction with him roaming around. Anarchy, the villain we saw in Batman Arkham Origins, is mysteriously missing from Arkham Knight. Gotham being chaos-filled would make you think that he would partake in this kind of event. However, perhaps he was in the city at some point. There was a theory created by Jen Pachi on YouTube, I'll link his video in the description, but the theory suggests that Killer Croc may have actually killed Anarchy, eating him. On Bleak Island, you can find a lighthouse that once was where Killer Croc was residing. At the lighthouse, you can see Panessa Studios in the background. If you go to that side of Panessa Studios, you'll find some interesting details. For one, the railings here are broken off, as if something tore them off. And another thing, you can find what looks like claw marks here on the wall. The biggest thing is that right below this area, you'll find an Anarchy symbol. Thugs mention if anyone has seen Anarchy since he would love a situation like this, and Aaron Cash mentions that the villain Lockup how nobody has seen him. He thinks the government may have taken him. So with all this evidence, especially with the lighthouse of Panessa Studios, there's a theory that Killer Croc may have swam over there, attacked Anarchy, eating him, and because of that, he's gone. That Anarchy symbol can be found all across Gotham, so Anarchy may have been setting up a plan of his, but it looks like Killer Croc decided to attack him first. Creepy to think about, but it's very interesting and has some type of merit to it. We don't ever get to see the grief and mourning of Jason Todd from Batman's perspective. However, in Batman Arkham VR, we do get to see a glimpse of Jason's torture through Batman's nightmares. In Batman Arkham VR, there's a section of the game that lets us hear a piece of Jason's torture at the asylum. In the game, you can hear Jason's screams throughout it. Check this out. This shows us that Batman has had nightmares about what the Joker was doing to Jason Todd, torturing him. Very disturbing to think about, especially when you stop and think that Jason is still a teenager here, just a kid. Joker tortures him in the worst ways imaginable, and this shows us that he was eating Batman alive, and that he has constant nightmares about it. It's a very creepy detail, and one that adds a layer to Batman in the Arkham series. Victor Zsasz has had a lot of creepy stories in the Arkham games. However, there's one that goes all the way back to the first game, Batman Arkham Asylum. In Arkham Asylum, in his interview tapes, Zsasz is being talked to by Dr. Sarah Cassidy, who's trying to cure him, asking him questions and trying to learn more about Zsasz. The interview takes a very dark and twisted turn though, just listen to the interview here.
Taped patient evaluation 5. Victor is not responding well to treatment. Victor, yesterday we spoke about the people you killed.
Ah, the zombies.
They are all people, Victor.
They are zombies. Continuously shuffling through the daily grind, waiting for someone to liberate them.
You mean kill them? The police report states that you've murdered, or liberated if you like, 20 young women in the last 3 months. Each had her throat slit and was left posed.
They were all lucky to be chosen to receive my gift.
I doubt they would agree with you.
Really? How about you, Miss Cassidy? As you take the elevator to your apartment each night, open the 6 locks to apartment 433. remember you forgot to buy your cat food? Again?
How do you know
As
where
you sit down on your favorite red chair, cat on lap, just waiting for something to happen. I can make it happen, Sarah. I am your salvation.
The tapes go on to say that Dr. Cassidy took a leave after this interview since she was in fear of her life. The next interview has Zsasz having a knife and cutting up one of the cards. However, the last audio tape is the most chilling. Take a listen.
Victor has been in isolation since the attack on Zagar last week. As I wait for him to be brought up to me, I have had time to review his notes. I am increasingly worried he cannot be cured. He has no empathy for his victims. Deep down, I believe he views all of us as potential victims.
Doc, are you okay?
What's happening?
It's Zsasz. He broke out of isolation. He's gone.
Oh, God!
Don't worry, Doc. You're the safest place. He's definitely left the island.
Of course. But someone needs to alert the authorities. He'll need to kill again. Do you understand me? Needs to. Oh, no. He's gone after Dr. Cassidy.
Hello?
Sarah, it's Gretchen. Listen to me.
For the love of... Hold on, there's someone at the door.
Sarah, do not answer the door. Can you hear me? Do not answer the door. It's Zsasz. He's free.
Now, this would normally be the last we hear of this, but there's a tie-in Arkham comic book, Road to Arkham, that actually tells us what happened to Dr. Cassidy. Zsasz is holding her hostage and plans to dissect her brain as revenge for her trying to get into Zaz's brain. Right before he kills her, however, Batman shows up and saves her life, putting Zsasz back into Arkham. The cool thing about it is that we see Dr. Cassidy in the game. She's one of the NPCs you can meet during the story. Terrifying story nonetheless. Imagine if you were in that doctor's position. Arkham Asylum must be paying you really well if you're willing to put up with things like this, especially with someone like Zsasz. Very creepy. This last one is a really chilling overworld thing you may have noticed in Batman Arkham Knight. So, in Batman Arkham Knight, if you're in detective mode for long enough, you can hear these distorted voices. Check this out. Now, there's a lot of theories on what this could be. It may be someone screaming for Batman's help from far away. It could be Batman's psychological anguish in this game as well. With that theory though, these echoes are still found after the story, so it may not be that. It could also be about Jason screaming for Batman as he may have nightmares about it. No way to know for sure, but it's very eerie to notice once you do, especially in how quiet Arkham Knight can get. We'll most likely never get a direct answer for this, but it's very, very creepy to speculate about. And those are 10 disturbing details from the Arkham games. Let me know which one's your favorite and if there's anything I missed. Be sure to support the video if you want, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe and peace.